No,
I'm
get technical, man.
sensitive.
It's a conversation between friends. I want you
Okay.
to get technical.
Majority of the people are pushing the ideas which make them money. This is an idea which has a low
Look, you're
ROI,
opening a
return on
can of worms
investment.
here, Fahad, because I don't want to get into. Hey, welcome to the Air Mobility Show with Ahmad Malik and my co-host Nadia Pak. Hey, Nadia, how are you doing?
Hi, Ahmad. Great, thank you. It's a great day today and a perfect opportunity for us to reconnect once again to blend in with the world of advanced air mobility and discuss the blend of the academia and the research done in the field, as well as speak with the industry professionals and researchers in the area. So I'm quite excited to be joining today.
Yeah, and we did the very first episode, which was Coffee with Friends style episode, and I really like that format where we sit down with people that we know, the friends and experts in the industry, and enthusiasts as well, and we can just discuss topics without any agenda, without any preparation, and that's where we are back today. Coffee with Friends. I don't really have a coffee. I have a coffee drink, but
I'll get some
let's
water.
get started. So we have two friends who are joining, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Neil, you go first.
Well,
Sorry,
I'm
Noel,
Noel.
you
Yeah,
go first.
no problem. I'm Noel. I'm finishing up my
Apologies.
PhD. No problem. I'm finishing up my PhD in medical sciences here in Liechtenstein, focusing on drones in healthcare logistics and medical innovation. And before that, I did my master's at ETH Zurich in biology or molecular health science, and also in Harvard in Boston. And else, I'm classically trained biologist from the University of Zurich in my bachelor's. And also simultaneously, I'm doing my specialist. I'm a candidate for a specialist for laboratory medicine, specializing in clinical chemistry. I think in US, an equivalent would be the DABCC diploma. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
That's a very interesting mix of skills, Noel. And this is why I wanted you to join today, because we wanted to focus on emergency services, especially medical emergency services, air ambulances and blood transfusion, transportation, organ transportation, and so on. And you have this very interesting mix of knowledge and skills and training. And our second guest is a more traditional fighter pilot. Go ahead, Fahad.
Thank you for having me here. So, name's Fahad Ibn Masood, tag call sign Obi-Wan. That's from Star Wars, as you already know. So, been there, done that a few times on a few fronts in aviation, starting with about 25 years of aviation history, started in 99. Commercial aviation, a lot to do with safety risk management, aircraft accident investigation. Did about 18 years of military service, few fast jets, just like Ahmad was mentioning on the good old Dasu Mirage 3 and 5 aircraft, Mark II, high altitude, interceptor, deep strike interdiction, a lot of good stuff. But where I stand today is of importance. At the juncture of advanced air mobility coming into the fold of aviation, as well as artificial intelligence. These are the two niche which I hold with myself. So as of now, where we stand today, advanced air mobility has matured as per technology, not as a system, but as per technology to be a relevant player in the global arena of aviation. And Medicare is one thing that it can do very well. So that's me. Pleasure being here, and looking forward to adding value.
Welcome, Fahad. Just getting back into the emergency services, and Noel, you're doing a lot of work in that sector. So, how do you see this industry evolving. I mean, I know that there is a commercial aspect as well, but saving lives, I think that should be the priority, and I keep advocating that this is probably where the investment can be justified. It's also where I think the problem of acceptance can be easier as well. So the work that you're doing and the education in and research in emergency services, what do you see how this is evolving?
Excellent question. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would hope that in 10 years we won't be asking if drones belong in healthcare, but we'll be asking how we ever kind of managed without it, right? That would be the aim. And I think in the emergency sector is one of the first that drones really can have a huge impact in. And I think there are, let's say, three bigger themes in emergency. There's one, the emergency and the, let's say, critical care logistics, right? For example, blood and organ transport or emergency medication as well. Also, medical equipment, of course.
Yeah, like
Um,
defibrillators and oxygen, etc. Right?
Exactly, because all that, if you can transport it, be more efficient, you don't have, for example, to buy it and store it in well in a tighter grid, right? So it's also it will be a reduction in health costs as well. Similar, for example, also for the routine healthcare logistics, which I'm more in the, for example, for a huge, the biggest laboratory, actually, private laboratory in Switzerland that I'm also working for, um, having a lab sample transportation, not only emergency, but just as a practical use, because in the laboratory medicine, all the equipment is quite expensive, also in the hospitals. And if you can kind of widen the net a bit and have an efficient logistics between it, it's also will hopefully reduce also healthcare costs, which now in Switzerland are again very under the hawk eye of the public, to reduce the healthcare costs. So disaster response, I think also here in Switzerland, which will be very important with the mountains, which are for hikers or skiers. Sometimes if they have an accident, it's very hard to get to them, or an avalanche. So it can be of, or also depending on the weather, maybe a helicopter cannot reach them in time, or it's too dangerous to fly. So you can send in a drone, or you can drop a kit or something where, like, for example, people around standing around could already do some first emergency work on the patients. And of course, well, disaster relief, and also disease control would also be another business case,
Yeah.
let's say, or use case. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another very interesting use case that I was also looking at was search and rescue. So for example, if you have a disaster and somebody slipped and you can't find them, the idea was that a big set of smaller drones that can have an ability to carry something like a lidars and infrared equipment, and they can spread around, swarm the area, and quickly find where the person is. If you're looking at like a 2 mile radius, searching a 2 mile radius can take a lot of time. With that kind of technology, can be covered fairly quickly. That's also very good. I think. I mean, again, it's an emergency services use
Yeah.
case.
Also, potentially, it can be covered in a cheaper way than with a
Yeah,
helicopter searching. And also, I mean, this use case, I mean, mounting cameras or specialized equipment on drones, it's been done with gas pipelines, for example, right? Or with
yeah,
electric cabling. And you can
yeah,
just mount, as you said, an infrared camera or
yeah.
LiDAR onto a
Train
drone, and
tracks,
then
for example, even.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just adopting that technology into something which is, life saving. It can be, if you are stuck in an avalanche, a few minutes can be, can save you an amputation. And Noel, you mentioned that the testing facilities can be very expensive. If you take that retrospectively into the African region and other third world countries, it's even worse, right? And I know there have been some initiatives in Africa, especially where they use drones to transport samples and drugs and medicines and everything as well. I think that's also going to be a very good use case. And the only problem is that the way the technology is going to be developed in the Western world, it will become very expensive for those countries to adopt. What's your view on that? What do you have you seen any focus on also trying to make it cheaper? Because that's the biggest problem. If we go past certification process, and Fahad know this very well, certification process is getting things regulated, costs forever. It costs a lot.
It's a very good question, actually. First of all, I think we're in the stage now of proof of concept and also searching for investors and also getting, proof that such endeavors with drones, especially in Africa or also in other countries which have, for example, not the best roads or, for example, kind of just huge countries, right, where it's difficult to reach potentially people in time. So we kind of have first to prove that those drones and endeavors really make a difference. And I think if it is accepted, when people kind of see that benefit, I think investors will come, and also potentially governments, and will buy such
Mhm. But this is
companies.
my issue with that, right? Because I think this shouldn't wait for the investors. This should be governments and the world
Absolutely, yeah.
powers in investing into that and focusing in it. Because all the
Sure.
investors issue is that they are, return on investment. This has nothing to do with return on investment. Life saving, life is not return on investment. So I don't really believe investors will invest unless they can see that they can make money. That was
No, right.
again going to make it more expensive, right?
No, right. It
Uh,
would have to be the governments who adopt
it have to be the
this. Absolutely.
governments and the agencies. Yeah, Fahad, sorry, go on.
So no, it's perfectly fine. I just want added value to the discussion that's going on. There is this process of ICAO, which I believe all of us are conversant with, which is the NCLB, No Country Left Behind initiative. Organizations as such, which include ICAO, EASA, ACI, these organizations can really play a big role in liberalizing this technology. In the end intent of ICAO is to make sure that this aviation tech is available to everyone across the globe and no one gets left behind. Liberalization yet again. The important facet that we have here in case of healthcare, just look at the domains of air taxi ambulances. We need to have something as we call as the hail drone tech, which is a high altitude, long endurance drone, 24, 48 hours at a time, flying up in the sky with the CNS capability, or having optical cables or cameras on board, so that they're able to make sure that everyone has the same world view of things. So a high altitude technology in drones can be used to bring things down to the grassroots level. We can use low altitude swarm drones subsequently in combination with this high altitude drone to navigate or find out where it is required the most. Something that we touched upon before as well, in accidents like avalanches and these kind of places, these high altitude drones with LIDAR technology or heat signatures or IR cameras can really play a big role in, uh, in securing those few vital minutes or seconds to save a life. So that is where I take it. And I certainly believe we have a lot of potential once we go synergistic in operations. Concept of operations can and should be endured in a way that the rich countries or the developed countries of the world come in combo with the developing countries. And there can be no better place than ICAO, where we have everyone on board. I know a few people who are in their study group, Advanced Air Mobilities, specifically. Um, yes, ICAO is a bit lagging on regulation and framework of advanced air mobility, but there are some people doing a very, very good job on it. And I believe if we put our heads together, we can find solutions to these challenges and make every life count, no matter developing or developed part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. So talking about ICAO, obviously ICAO doing their job, and yeah, you're right. I mean, they're kind of behind, but they're kind of catching up because 2024 they did a whole AAM thing in Montreal, which was very good initiative, and they've pushed that, and we had that conversation in the last Coffee with Friends. Somehow this topic comes up in Coffee with Friends episode. That's good. The challenge that I want to address is that technology and adoption of commercial aviation, because that's what ICAO really focuses on, right? Commercialization. Yes, and commercialization point of view, yeah, no country can left behind, or technology is accessible to everyone, and that's all great. But building that infrastructure, buying the drones and providing it to the countries and the services and to the NGOs and organizations that are providing that service. That's, I think, the initiative that needs to be looked at a bit more. And that's not something that ICAO is going to do. ICAO is not going to give money to anyone to launch those services. And I think that's where the challenge is. And I was just sharing this screen. There is this one particular organization, Think Global Health, and they run services in sub-Saharan Africa, where they can deliver. It's a very simple thing. If you look at it, it's basically a simple drone, and they stuck a box on top of it. You see here, it's how simple is that? There's a little bit of cameras, because I think these are remotely piloted. There's a lot. Also, I remember there was another company which was using these drones, very primitive type of drones, to deliver. Essentially, they were delivering the blood samples at that time. That's basically what I saw, and it was a simple drone. It wasn't an eVTOL. It was a simple drone that was stuck on a slingshot type of thing platform, and they launch it, and then somebody is flying it to get to the destination. They fly over that destination and drop this small package with the parachute, and then comes back, and they catch it in a net. In ingenuitive kind of ways that I would like to see these technologies implemented, right? Do you have any other example of that? I mean, can we kind of like talk about a bit more of
Yes, I
these kind of
think Doctors Without Borders is one organization which is also in the same domain. They're innovative in their approach. They get to do a lot of things. Once again, money makes the mayor go. You hit the nail on the head with that one. But because they have such a confluence of understanding with the industry and the Medicare industry, as well as their own purpose, that they are able to align both interests and make the most of the effort. Um, and places which are desolate, and we all know this. Australia is one of the most desolate continents of the world. The
yeah,
outback, as we call it the outback because there's nothing there except a few kangaroos. Um, so, um, so this is ideal, I think, for it. A place like Oman, where I am stationed right now, except for the coastline, Muscat and Sohar, Salalah, and a few other cities which are on the coastline are networked by these by the roads. But deep inside, you go towards Yemen or Saudi border, there is no road network. So for may it be air taxi ambulance services, medical supply provisions, or remote healthcare capability of advanced air mobility. So there are places where there is no road.
Mm.
Just like Back to the Future, Doc says where we are going, we don't need roads.
Yeah, but I
So
think the good
that's
part is, especially where Noel is coming from, is that a lot of research that is being done in the Europe, in the Western world, will be made available. Eventually, will trickle down, right? And it will come. And this is a prime example. And I'm just going to share this here. This is a video that basically is about drone delivery of blood samples in London hospital. This is an initiative that was started by NHS, and I'll mute them. People can watch. I'll put the link in the description. But it's a simple concept, and countries like United Kingdom and Europe and other Western countries can invest into that, and then that can be adopted elsewhere, right? I mean,
Yes, I would tend to agree. This is a very ideal case where there's an urban, pardon my French, an urban jungle, and eVTOLs or these technologies facilitate the ease of operations. And well, health is the most important operation of all. If we don't have health, you have $1 million. It's not worth the $1 million. So it's very crucial. And these kind of services, if I'm not wrong, stateside, they're using this. I'm not sure which organization, but they're using this for heart movement as well, from origin to destination hospitals for transplant of heart. So I think it's something which is very much on the cards for both developing and developed worlds. But once again, it has to be in confluence with the industry as well as the healthcare management systems across the globe. We have two big ones, the Red Cross and the Red Crescent, which are there, which do a lot of activities, may it be conflict zone, war zones, or peacetime operations. United Nations, I'm coming back to the same because ICAO is a component of United Nations as well. So UNHCR, healthcare, they can go across World Food Program. They can facilitate as well. Yes, they're not the richest components of the whole system, but they have the competency, skill sets, and the capabilities to gel together everyone and to make sure that this thing is working.
the question I have, the challenge I have is that yes, everything is possible, everything is there, blah blah blah. But I feel there's a lot more work needs to be done. And the purpose of this conversation is to just sort of ignite that fire that we need to work a bit more for the benefit of the humanity. Because in the end of the day, if technology is not helping humanity, making quality of life better, making our lives easier, and also saving lives, then we're failing somewhere. And you see that, and you both can, all of us can see that the focus in advanced air mobility is all about the money right now. This is what the focus is. And hopefully our conversations can drive this conversation further, and get people excited about saving lives, and doing some more research. But a bit more sort of biological and medical technicalities for adopting these services. No, and what are the kind of challenges that we have to address? Because we saw that drone have a box on top of it. You just stick things in, and it's fine. But I can't imagine that is just universally acceptable way of transportation. You have samples, you have to have some kind of care, heating, cooling, time constraints, whatever. What are the medical challenges when it comes to laboratory testing of different types of tests that we carry out today? And what are the things we can do to make these possible? Do you have some views around that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, in laboratories or in the medical field, the thing is everything has to be validated, right? You cannot just take something and ship it across no matter what. You always want to keep the integrity of the samples and of the potentially organs or of the blood. So a lot of my research is focusing on how, let's say, bad can we treat the blood or
And get
stuff
away
that
with
we
it.
basically transport without having an effect, right? Or first of all, I mean, people would maybe ask, yeah, why is it any different than transporting with a car? First of all, you have other like velocities that you're talking, like g forces. Also, you have micro vibrations. Some of the blood analytes, for not getting too technical, for example, thrombocytes, are very
No, get technical, man.
sensitive.
It's a conversation between friends. I want
Okay.
you to get technical. Let's get get technical as much as we want.
Perfect. So, for example, the
If Nadia
thrombocytes.
starts chiming in, that's the sign that we have to dial it back. But until
Yeah,
then,
that
just
is
go.
okay. Perfect. Then the thrombocytes, for example, they are very sensitive in getting activated, and we want to find out now with a recent project I'm trying to set up now with a national endeavor, let's say. We wanted to find out like the blood products, for example, erythrocytes or thrombocytes, or also specialty products for children which have been radiated, and these kinds of products. How is the drone flight affecting it? Also, here in Switzerland, we have those beautiful mountains, but the problem is getting over them. So how is air pressure, for example, right, influencing those integrities and stuff? And also, for example, you also mentioned
Temperature changes, high altitude, all that kind of stuff.
exactly temperature changing, but also what it would need is, I think the best approach would be standardized boxes, which exists already for example, blood transfusion products. But I think it would get let's say the entry level for startups or drone companies way lower if you don't, because drone companies, right, those are engineers, these are expert in flights and in regulations, but no expert oftentimes in medical products. So it would help a lot to have standardized boxes which can keep temperature and vibrations out, so you can just adapt and build your drone or whatever around that box. And I think if you have that, then it will get easier for drone companies to make those services. Because for now, if you have a drone, you want to use it as a medical transportation device. Let's say a serious hospital or laboratory would ask, yeah, have you validated these drone? Have you tested some of this blood? Like, am I gonna get, or is there an error? Because otherwise you're gonna make some wrong assumptions for the patient.
You can get false positives and stuff. There's going to be, and this is just an extension to the question and your explanation. There's going to be different other things as well, right? Because you mentioned blood, let's say, but also Fahad was mentioning organs. So like a beating heart, so carry a beating heart to a destination. There's going to be even more modifications required for that sort of thing. So it would be even more niche, right? That's what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? How would that work?
Yeah, and also the problem with not only blood samples, but if the payload gets bigger and gets more heavy, and the organs are very strictly regulated how you can transport them. So I think for now the first big hurdle would be to overcome is regulations. I mean, before that, you're lost, right? You have to really prove we can transport those kind of things, because
so demonstration of the technology will be first before we even think about developing something, because you can't. It makes sense.
So ConOps,
Fahad,
the word that we got it. ConOps, the word concept of operations need to be tested and trialed across the world in different atmospheric conditions, weathers, phenomena, climates. So it's a big question mark. Regulatory framework, as we had mentioned before, we won't go down that lane. That's a prerequisite. But let's look at solutions. One of the things that we have now, which has never been there before, is the use of AI. Artificial intelligence can really provide a lot of solutions to the questions we have, except for the regulations once again. If we want to generate, for example, and I'm taking it to the extreme, seismic, redundant building technologies, simple terms, that buildings that can survive earthquakes. So that is there, especially places like fault lines in Japan and other countries where it is a regular phenomenon that we have earthquakes and all buildings survive them. They have a vibratory motion at the bottom so that they are able to survive that vibration and the building keeps standing. So now where we stand with the use of AI, um, uh, these type of commodities or products can be manufactured. And the other tech which is there, which is now also very much in across the world, is the 3D printing capability. Um, Anything that you can think in your mind, you can hold in your hand right now. This statement could have never been truer in the past. Anything that we can think of can be put on a CAD. Now CAD is now still old school. Something which is computer
Yeah,
based,
they
and it
use
can
they
be
use 3D modeling software nowadays. The same they use
so.
for making videos,
Yes.
movies.
So we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Rest
no, I think
assured,
that's a very good
come to
point. I
us.
mean, without going into the details of other things, but AI is, I think, a primary, a very good partner for anything that is needs to be developed. And when we say advanced air mobility or advanced aviation, I think one of the things that is helping that advancement is going to be the artificial intelligence. And Fahad, I'm doing a lot of research on AI and implementation of AI in aviation industry. And I think the technology is there and it's used in several other things. But I think the challenge again is what also Noel is referring to, is that we do not have the ability or the right regulation or backing or confidence
Correct.
to start using any of these technologies in the aviation. I mean, the biggest challenge itself is that the industry leaders in aviation, most of them are old boys. They like the way the
Yep.
things are. I still
True.
remember when I was learning to fly, my instructor used to tell me, "Oh, you guys, you have to have these GPSs and things." Back in the day, we used to fly with just a needle.
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah, back in the day, you also used to get drunk and fly." So, that is the challenge, how to get there. No one knows how to get there.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the problem I see. If you
Hmm.
leave it to the old boys who've been running aviation all this time, do you think that's going to get done?
Everything starts with policy direction, a
Mm.
doctrine, a strategic vision that takes things from known to point B, which is unknown. That is where leadership comes into play. That is something which is, if I put this correctly, is left wanting in the healthcare management system. I'm not pointing fingers here, but I would certainly say that we, in the healthcare business, finance or money making has also played its role, and majority of the people are pushing the ideas which make them money. This is
Yeah.
an idea which has a low
Look, you're
ROI,
opening a
return on
can of worms
investment.
here, Fahad, because I don't want to get into that. The big pharma, is trying to
Yeah.
stop us finding a cure for cancer. Once we are comfortable, the progress stops, which is not a very good thing, unfortunately, because progress stopping is or slowing is just going to, if you're not moving forward, you're really moving backwards, right? So that's my my
That's
view.
why we need visionaries, right? And maybe I can speak
Yeah,
for Switzerland and for Liechtenstein, but I mean, although it's going very slow and the regulations are slow, I mean, they do allow corridors. You have to apply for them, but they do allow more and more corridors for medical transportation, also over inhabited zones. Also, there have been projects in Zurich between two hospitals where there was deliveries of medical samples. And I think, yeah, it's going slow, but it's better than stopping, right?
better than nothing.
I think
No, absolutely, you're right. Yeah.
short term, I think what's now here in Switzerland, what has to be the focus is kind of the expansion of the short drone distances and the short drone corridors, right, for hospitals and pharmacies. And there will be more pilot programs coming for sure, because it's getting allowed. It's kind of the public is interested in it. It's skeptical, but it's interested. And I think it's a good thing. And I think medium term will be, full scale integration. I think one very important thing in medicine is it has to be integrated or fully integrated. It cannot be that it has to be practical, right? Like for example, your local in the city, your local bicycle courier cannot be faster and more efficient and cheaper than the drone. It cannot just be a nice gadget. It has to have a certain value, of course. Yeah. And I think, but here I think it's coming along great, and I hope that in other countries and cities, I think that there will be the government sees that and will also loosen the regulations or do some allow ingenuity to flourish, basically. Yeah. I
think this is very positive thing that if some regions, some countries taking the initiative to allow these things, then that becomes this basis for the data that you need to certify that. Because also the challenge is that to get certifications you need data comes from actual use. If you stop it before you can capture that data, then you're kind of stuck in a catch-22 situation.
Thinking about the geographical aspects of the use case and the applications, but I wanted to ask Noel about his research in particular and collaboration with other institutions globally, not only in Europe but in other regions and continents, to create solutions that are applicable to their environments, to their economies, to the infrastructure that is in place. Is there anything that you are working in that area, as well as the knowledge sharing with other researchers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, at the moment, or in my two first papers about the right, let's say the drone endeavor, I really focused first nationally. I looked how efficient, and also later the focus was on carbon emission, carbon dioxide emission, but the efficiency, what really can, if you put drones in place, how efficient is it really? And for example, here in Switzerland, we discovered that generally, although we have really good streets and everything, right? So the traffic isn't really like a problem, or but we have huge mountains. That's a big deal. So the routes are, when you take them with the drones, are between 17 and 24% shorter, which translates in a 13 to 80% time saving. And for example, but of course, I mean, this is very, very depending on the use case. If you go to Dubai or New York or whatever, it will be completely different numbers. But I think, speaking of efficiency, I think that's the first thing that has to basically be transported out as a message, how efficient drones can be. And what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
It's about the knowledge sharing with other institutions globally, being in partnership because of the extensive research that you're conducting.
Yeah, I mean, there are some collaborations I can not yet talk about, but will talk about for sure, and I will get you the update when that's more crystallizes. But there are other countries in Europe who wanted to conduct tests on efficiency, for example, from islands to the mainland, where exactly the question is, or the problem is, they want to solve is the population on the island is quite old, for example, and they want to have the proper medication and doctors as well with blood drawing and whatnot. And how the state of the art at the moment is to fly those people. So they go to a doctor. They maybe have the doctor doesn't know what's going on, so they're going to be tested. They're going to be blood work done, right? So they fly them out to the main city, and they have to stay there maybe for 2 or 3 days, do all the testing, and fly them back. You can imagine what kind of cost that generates in terms of just getting the local doctor, getting blood drawn. And for example, that would be a great collaboration. And also, I've talked to scientists, for example, in Japan, who are also very interested in doing that. But I mean, at the moment, it's also kind of sad that, I mean, all these researchers are at the moment are in their own little environments, right? And also one of my goals, also to push that a little bit in the media, is kind of to work a little bit more together and be more also efficient in terms of scientific questions. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yes, exactly. If collaboration globally, if you gather together the like-minded people and the researchers in the area, I think we can really push that forward. And with that being said, I think one of the things that I think we are also working on extensively with Ahmad and other partners is looking into the research program where that is called Open AAM. It's a nonprofit organization that involves academia and stakeholders from the industry to kind of share their knowledge, their expertise into building and shaping the future of AAM and the use cases on different levels. But on the non-commercial side of things, I wanted to share this link. I don't know if Ahmad, if you can help me with sharing the screen. It's about a drone company that is testing currently in Africa to help with the other elements of helping the countries with remote areas on disaster response, also border control and internet connectivity, and that is something I believe is also an important area for discussion. The Especially the disaster response and border control. And I think, Fahad, you would be more of an expert in the area, and if you can share your um, opinion about the state of developments and being a non-commercial element of the AAM, how these technologies would be progressing in the future.
So the high altitude, long endurance capability of drones have been tried and tested many times over on the military scale of things. In the recent past, programs like the Zephyr, ZEPHYR, they are pushing the envelope of having long-term aerial services available through the use of, what do we call this, specifically the internet connectivity aspect. And with the solar panels on board, you don't really need anything else, just like the image that we're saying here. You don't need any other battery power available. It can fly at length. I don't remember the exact record, but they broke the longest flying record for anything in the air in the recent past. So I believe it's doable. So it is available for use, commercialized use. Rest assured, the only thing that is required is the intent behind the action. with the intent, you have the alignment of different stakeholders to bring this on board and make it work. Um, the age-old saying which says only dreamers can make dreams come true cannot be greater than the truth here as well. We need to have people, and I would like to name people like Elon Musk, people like Jeff Bezos, who've broken the conventionalism of the International Space Station, the conventionalism of ESA, the conventionalism of NASA and USA, where everything was supposed to be done by these stalwarts of space. So there are solutions, and we only need to have, as I've mentioned before, doctrine, strategy, policy, which guides us in the correct direction. Everything else falls into perspective, and things can be challenges can be resolved and solutions can be found.
You need the vision, right? I mean, policy and regulation is already there too much, I think. We need the vision and execution of that vision. You need to, because that's another problem, right? Because people may have vision, but they don't know how to execute it. So yeah, it was a fantastic conversation. I think we did actually open up quite a few topics to discuss, and I think the idea behind this conversation is to sort of spark conversation in the wider industry. People start talking about these things. And thank you both for joining the podcast today. I think I really do prefer the coffee with friends episodes than more sort of interviewee styles. I'm not a journalist. That's not what we do. We are industry experts, all of us here. We're just having a chit chat. So fantastic. Thank you for your time, for your input, and thanks everyone who dialed in and watched the episode and has been following. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.